unique idea of we have a very unique idea.
What happened there?
Oh, the recording just started.
I think the recording just started. It
Well,
wasn't
that's a shame.
okay. Okay. All right, so we're gonna have to back up just a little bit to mention some things, but you're in the middle of talking about the second book Noam Chomsky wrote after manufacturing consent.
Yes.
Yes, and so can you give the book title again and start from the beginning of that? And then we're going to backpedal a little bit and talk about how we got there because we missed somehow technically because of a host.
And I loved the entire conversation about what she's learning about being in large organizations. So
we might come back to it. So, but
I don't.
I don't know what happened.
Oh no. Okay, so just to go back, I just recently finished Media Control: The Spectacular Achievements of Propaganda. And so this is a book by Noam Chomsky that came out 1 year after 9/11. And the whole purpose of the book is to discuss the way the media plays a role in manufacturing our consent for the government to do things. And so with this being 1 year after 9/11, he talks a lot about the war on terrorism. And one of the things he mentioned is that what wasn't reported was the agreements that the Taliban was trying to make to avoid war. And I was saying, like, the America said no, because we have this very unique idea of what terrorism is, which is kind of separate from what what the official definition is. And he kind of says it, how do you say it? Was it cynically or just like sarcastically? He's like, terrorism is when you go around and you like cause unnecessary harm to other people, or you try to like dominate them or take them over, but that's only terrorism when we're not doing it. And so that's his definition of it. And he goes on to say, like, had the media actually not been kind of like serving the agendas of the people who actually have power, then the American people would have had the information that they needed to actually say, this isn't what we want, or this isn't what I signed up for, or this isn't actually what I'm like interested in. Like, because at the end of the day, nobody really wants to go to war or send the kids off to potentially be killed, or know that their loved one is killing someone else. And so like that's the whole purpose of the book. He talks about Iraq, Nicaragua, things that happened in Cuba and Haiti, and how America played a role in destabilizing these places, but the media never really told us the full story. Okay. And so, yeah, it's very interesting. He speaks a little bit on like advertisement and like how that plays into, which is like the media. So advertisement became a huge part of like this machine to get us to think that we want something that we won't, or that we don't, or that we've agreed to something that we hadn't. So, yes, it's been very, very interesting. And yeah, so.
Yeah, those are all, interesting things. I'm going to say the first thing I'm going to say is that environment that existed in 2002 that Chomsky is describing doesn't really exist today. And that's one of the big changes that has occurred. It used to be, so one of the things that I thought a lot about is that most current systems of government, in fact, all, whether you like them or not, so just put aside for now whether you like them or not, but just to say as a factual statement, most systems of government, all systems of government, were designed to operate in a society where the elites control the media. So people of power and influence, either directly or tacitly endorsed by the status quo, which is a bit of a fuzzy concept, and we can talk about that too. So, for example, sometimes people who want to be successful in the United States know what they need to say to be successful, so they will self-edit themselves. Nobody necessarily imposes that perspective on them. So for the longest time, it's been impossible for anyone to run for office and say they're agnostic, let alone an atheist. If you run for political office at the national level, you have to say that you have some kind of religion Judaism is allowed, but preferably Christian, right?
Hasn't been allowed so often.
Sorry, what? What did you say?
Hasn't been allowed so often, but yeah.
Yes, yeah. But so
Same with
all systems of government were designed for that. And the internet and the digital revolution have destroyed that. And I actually doubt whether in this current environment, the US, I'll just speak about the US, could engage in a significant overseas military operation if they could generate enough consensus. I think it would be extremely traumatic, and there would be a lot of debate because you have, I mean, I spend a lot of time on YouTube now. I'm becoming more and more aware of all the different types of conversations that occur on YouTube, and people, you know, without credentials and from my perspective, with poor research and logic, nevertheless can have millions of followers. So it's just, you know, and you can see it right now with Ukraine, how difficult it is for us to sustain, the United States to sustain the support of Ukraine. So I think Chomsky was right for the most part about what he was describing in 2002. And I think now in 2024, that doesn't really exist. And I'm a little scared to see what happens when there is a crisis that requires some kind of dramatic American commitment. Will it happen?
But
I don't know.
But
Do
that
you think
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but do you think the government needs to like use these same kind of tactics to like get our consensus? Does our consent for things need to be manifested, or are things going to be done differently?
Well, so what I like to say, and thank you for giving me a platform to vent, Amber. No. What I like to say is that a lot of the, you know, people that I've talked to, former government colleagues, politicians, blame the American people. They say, oh, the American people are not serious anymore, and we need to give everybody civics lessons, yada, yada, yada. And I think that's wrong. I think the world has changed and governments need to adapt to the new world. So basically, every drop of secrecy that the government exudes, and every grain of we know better that it exudes, reduces the trust the American people have in it, and creates the arena in which all these conspiracy theories can bloom. And so I've been on record, and I'll find you a couple of the articles, Julia, where I've said things like, we have to imagine a 100% transparent government to deal with this new environment. And one of the things I like to say is that governments, and frankly, government is just, at its simplest form, government is what people decide they need to carry out transactions at scale. So there's if you're a family, you can handle your stuff yourself. If you're a little town, maybe, but at some point you get to this level of complexity and scale that you need to create, at least we think we need to create, organizations to carry them out. So anyway,
Carmen poo-poos based on her body language.
Well, I mean, I don't poo-poo it. It's just that, well, I don't want to dominate this conversation, but I will say, I will, let me just finish with this. So I think that government has to have what I call a Smokey the Bear strategy now. So Smokey the Bear doesn't say only you can fight forest fires. Smokey the Bear says only you can prevent forest fires. And so the metaphor I'm drawing is that government can't fight disinformation or fight the lack of trust. Government has to, by changing, prevent it. And I'm completely convicted of this idea and believe in it strongly. But I do think the environment that Chomsky described is not with us anymore. I mean, there are countries like China that appear to be very clever in trying to control what the people believe. Based on what I think about human nature, I think eventually the Chinese experiment will not succeed. But I could be proven wrong.
What is the
Maybe.
Chinese experiment?
Well, social media is tightly controlled. There's a lot of censorship. The Chinese government is digitally very sophisticated, but in a very controlling way. And they can't post on YouTube. They can't, they can't access any Western social media. The only social media they can access is sort of self-contained within China.
Well,
and they have.
If you say anything against the leader, you might be put in jail, or bad things will happen to you. So there's no opportunity, even if you had access to social media. It's risky.
And they have censors who spend all their time trying to figure out the code words that people are using to criticize or refer to the government. So, for example, Xi, the leader, for the long time was described as a Pooh. He looks like Winnie the Pooh. And so now, if you can't use those words on Chinese social media. You can't say Pooh. You can't say Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
So that's their approach.
Okay.
But it's okay. I gotta clarify something here. Or you wanted to? Well, I'm just going to quickly butt in and say this. Are you saying, Carmen and Amber, I'm curious about your response to this, that because it sounded at first almost like it's a bad thing that the culture is changing because we can't go to war with another country or do any sort of international major adventure, let's just say positive or negative, in foreign relations because we have consensus, and you wish it were otherwise, but it's changing. But I know you, and I know that that's not in fact what you think. I think you actually think this is a good thing. Is that correct?
I do think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think that government just has not appreciated how significant this change is. Yeah. I think, and I also believe that, like everything in life, some good things have bad consequences, or particularly when you don't adjust to them correctly. So, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. And so to go back to this book, at the very beginning, he opens it up by describing how what he calls the specialized class. So these are the people who have the control, who have the power. These are not even our leaders, because the leaders would be a part of that specialized class, but they are not the real puppeteers.
Yeah.
And he describes them as this is a specialized class. Everyone else is the bewildered. And he says the specialized class, they see us as like a herd of wildebeest. One of them runs, we all run in that direction, and we're just trampling and knocking things over. And their job is to herd the wildebeest, keep us calm, keep us tame, keep us from destroying the place, because we don't know what's in our best interest. And I think that's one of the things that really pulled me into that book, was reading that, because it's irritating. And it's like, at this point in time, it's 2024, millennials, we're all like grown now, and we know that this is the way that we are viewed. And so when you say like the world is changing, it's changing because like, how many times can you like keep doing the same things before somebody sees the pattern, or somebody notices like, well, I'm being mistreated, or like something's not right here. So
yeah.
I think it's a deserved thing. Like you say, it's a good thing. I think this is what we deserve. This is what those who may try to control us and manufacture our consent deserve. They deserve to lose control a little bit and see what happens. So
Well, I'm excited about it. As Julia knows, I describe myself, my political philosophy is anarchism, which is often confused with violence. And some anarchists have been violent and have particularly advocated violence to destroy institutions, which I think is nutty. But a lot of anarchists just have this view that we have to resist creating institutions of power and control. And instead, we have to try to see how much of what we need to do to work together in complex societies we can accomplish through voluntary agreements or associations, without compulsion. And it's very idealistic, I know, almost likely never to work, but I like holding that principle in my head because it makes me very suspicious of most government efforts. And so I am, I think, pretty progressive on most social issues, but I'm always very suspicious of government imposing solutions for most social issues. It may seem like a good thing in the short term, but I'm kind of not, I think it can turn out badly in many instances. So it puts me kind of in a funny place among my colleagues.
So is that kind of what the government is doing with their like constant attempts at removing TikTok from American social media?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have not researched the whole TikTok thing for myself. So all I know is what I read, and apparently, obviously, if a Chinese company is beholding to the Chinese government, then somehow all this information could be sucked up by the Chinese government and all sorts of crazy AI things could be done. The logic, it's there. And of course, this has happened in the West. It's happened in the US, right? As Edward Snowden revealed during the war against terror, certain, I don't want to get into any details because I know details that are classified and details that are not classified, but Snowden revealed how the government, our government, the US government, sometimes had access to information that private companies had provided them, right? Phone records, let's say, for example. And that, it's the same kind of thing that the US government has done, at least in part, that we're afraid the Chinese government can do with TikTok.
Well, and US technology companies. So like the big fear is China. I mean, one of the big fears is China creates a big AI model of all of us who are on TikTok and basically figures out all our personalities and who we know and all our networks, and then uses, Facebook and Instagram and American technology companies to manipulate us. So part of the plan includes what's already a problem in the US, but we're only going to attack the thing that's Chinese. And so that's interesting. So it comes back to this prevent forest fires thing. It's like, what can we do so that we don't have the problem of being manipulated by our social media addiction or by desire to be liked or by our fear of meeting with other people in real life. So we spend all our time looking at our phones,
Right.
So, yeah. Anyway, I don't know, Amber, are you convinced? What do you think? Because also, Carmen keeps a security clearance and has to keep things classified. And so she has to keep secrets that she doesn't necessarily believe in, right? According to your philosophy, Carmen. Is that right?
I don't have, well, I have to keep secret things that I if I were God, I would say, well, we don't have to keep that secret.
Yeah.
But I have to keep them secret. So I do, because that's my oath. So that's an important thing.
Right, but when you say things like everything should be transparent, like I don't think you're talking about everything. Like you're not talking about the nuclear codes. Like not everyone in the
Well,
world.
there are clearly things in this world that the fewer people know them, probably the better.
Mhm.
But I think that we've just gone, and I'm not the only person who thinks this. A lot of people think that we've just gone overboard with classification and creating all sorts of trust problems with the American people. And I certainly believe that is true.
Yeah. Well, Amber, what so Carmen, this is a very passionate topic for Carmen. What is this making you think of?
I'm just kind of listening along. It also kind of takes me back to a conversation I had with a former executive director of Tilt, and had also issues with us using the TikTok platform, and the idea that there was some kind of AI model that was being used to manipulate like each of us on individual levels, because you don't really know who you're talking to on the internet. And a lot of people do the what do you call it? The burner account kind of
Right.
thing, where you don't know if it's a person or not, or who you're talking to. It also takes me back to Transcendent Mind. There's a
Mm,
part in the book where you all are talking about Turing's test and how robots can
Right,
be
Turing test.
labeled intelligent, and that is to make a person think that it's human. And so we also hear like all those little rumors about people who have made AIs that like actually online and are just like racist robots. And so it's just like all of that together, like um I don't know, when it comes to the TikTok topic, I kind of believe all of it. Like, yeah, whole potential for AIs to be made and to manipulate us and sell things to us and get our secrets. Whole other side is just the government doesn't want us to communicate the way that we can on those platforms. So um
That
that's kind of where I'm with it. I believe
yeah.
all. So
Well, it's interesting you're reading Chomsky and then Marshall McLuhan. Am I saying that right?
fluent,
McLuhan.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Anyway, he wrote in the 50s and 60s about the advent of TV. And he really understood how TV would affect and change American society. And Chomsky is sort of continuing many of the themes that McLuhan wrote about. Um, and I don't know yet if anybody has written a careful assessment of how they think society is evolving as a result of what we're describing here. These, ubiquitous digital platforms that have no barrier to entry, that anybody can use to share whatever they want to share. And that's not what democracy was designed for.
mhm.
I don't know if anyone has written that. I know there have been books about the effect of the digital revolution, but I haven't found them very
Also
persuasive.
in this Chomsky book, he has a whole part where he talks about a perfectly functioning democracy, and it's one where the bewildered herd is so distracted and so wrapped up in television or like the newest toys or the latest fashion craze.
Right.
But like the media does that to us too. And he also, I guess, and my assumption is that Chomsky would kind of see like the release of all these social platforms as another one of these like tricks to kind of keep us like distracted. And so,
But he sees
and
it sort of as a conspiracy rather than like that's what happened. I mean, I kind of think there's not like a group of people who are like, now we're going to keep the wildebeest in check. It's sort of like that's what the system created.
Right.
And so that's the problem I have with Chomsky is it's sort of like, yeah, and if you're a wildebeest, like I'm definitely one of the bewildered. So if I'm a bewildered wildebeest, like there's a part of me that's like, that's what I know how to do. And I'm gonna be the best wildebeest. And like there's a part of me that's like, that's my role. And I'll do my role because there's so much uncertainty. I need a role, you know. So then how much are the wildebeests ourselves, the bewildered ourselves creating this this sort of need for divisions that makes anarchy impossible?
Hmm.
Hmm.
I don't really believe in I don't think you're bewildered at all, Julia, or a wildebeest. I just feel like if I go stand up on a mountain and I'm looking down at a million people, it might look kind of chaotic, even if they're all perfectly in sync. And it's just like, I think that's the kind of situation we've put ourselves in when it comes to like, we have the specialized class that thinks that they know what's best for us. It's just that they went up there and like kind of see us as like just running around, not knowing what they're doing and not knowing what we're doing. But like, I don't believe that that's true. I think we actually talked about this. I think like people are people, and like we need to be exploring like the depth of that.
Yeah. Can you say more
Exactly.
about that? Yeah, like what is the mountain? That is the separation. And how would we explore the depth of that? I'm asking you. I think you know the answer to this.
um,
I don't.
I don't either. I think in this world, like we'd have to start breaking down the mountain kind of in a way. We need to get everything level. Everything needs to be together so we can all see each other. Like I can't see you if you're way up there. You don't really see me if I'm way down here. And so a part of that could be like this transparency that Carmen talks about, transparency within the government. I think like just distrust of the government also lends in the distrust that we have of each other, because like I think we're like kind of looking toward the government to fix what's happening with us socially, like put some kind of policy in place. In a way, we're kind of giving that power away. But
Exactly.
like sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought.
That was
So pick
beautiful.
that up. Yeah.
I thought that was beautiful. So taking down the mountain, what does that look like? There's a book called Practical Anarchy that I just heard about, and the author says that the best tool to actually make anarchy practical is kindness. Like and
Hmm.
that reminds me of what you just said, Amber, which is this that we have to see each other. So how do we take down the mountain? And maybe we can ask you to say how that relates to working in a giant organization, because that was before we started recording, although we didn't know it. I don't know if it
Um,
really, I'm just trying to weave that in.
well, okay, so I'm trying to just get it in there, or going back to what I said earlier, like when I get asked at work, like let me, or someone is trying to like let me explain this thing. I'm being introduced to a project and someone wants to explain it to me, and my first response is to say, "Can I tell you what I know?" And I feel
Love
like
that.
part of the reason why I do that is because like I don't know, maybe this is me like climbing the mountain. We can't really take down the mountain unless we blow it up, and I love the earth, so like be the mountain. And
Mhm.
so maybe like, maybe we climb that mountain. And when I do that at work, and no matter who it is, a superior or like just another colleague of mine, it's kind of a way to, I feel like I'm doing this, like I'm looking you in the eye by telling you that I am also like knowledgeable and like expert in a way, or that I've been here and I'm paying attention. And like I have the
Right.
wherewithal, like to to make the decisions and know what's going on. And I think like where does that come from? To just take it further, comes from like learning to be kind and loving to myself, which is like that's a hard one. It's hard for me to explain that to people despite like all the stuff we've done until all the like language that I have around what it means to like love unconditionally or love yourself unconditionally, or even like I've also done CBT for going on 8 years now. And like even with all of that, it's so hard to explain like how you arrive at this place where you feel like I can look at you in your eye no matter who you are, or I'm gonna go up that mountain now because yeah. So,
Yeah, I think one of the, well, you've reminded me, one of the reasons why it's so hard one of the reasons why we turned it over to government is fear.
Yeah.
Or turn it over to an institution of control is fear. There's just so much fear. And of course, psychology talks about, the big 5 personality traits and ocean, whatever that stands for. But
Openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, and
neuro,
what's the last one's neurosis? What's the A? Artistic.
Yeah, but when you're when you have neurosis, I think you have a level of fear that you can't manage. It's just so strong that it dominates you in a way that is not healthy for you. And I think fear, people are there's just so much fear. And again, knowing each other and transparency is about the only way to, to deal with fear.
But this is the
Unless people,
this is the developmental process. So like as a kid, you look up literally to your parents. It's built in biologically. You look up to your parents and you are programmed to be like, okay, like you should have the answer to this because I don't, because I'm clueless, because I'm still developing. And so that's the model we have, right, of how to handle. And so then, the parents get old, we find out, oh no, they didn't know the answers because now that's us and we don't know the answers. But then all of a sudden people are looking up to you to know the answers. And so it's this perpetuate what I think could take down the mountain. Really it struck me, Amber, when you said, when I look at my superior in the eyes. And the use of the word superior, we still use that as if the person is superior to you, which is insane. Not even the parent
right,
is superior to the child. The parent is in the role of protector and guider of the child. And the child is in the role of grower and changer and learner of how the world works. And the same thing is true with someone when you're working and someone's your boss, they're not your superior. They're in the role of answering questions, helping support you, helping troubleshoot in a healthy relationship.
right. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
I,
and so this what can help change, I think, or take down the mountain is the recognition of these are roles and they're temporary, right?
exactly, they are roles. And this is something that you will know much more about, I think, Amber, than I, which is all of these models around software development, like
Agile.
agile and the scrum and all these concepts
waterfall,
that
yeah.
are
Wait, what did you say?
I said the waterfall, yeah.
Are intended to minimize the need for hierarchical leadership and are intended to create better collaboration possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't
Yes.
work.
Oh.
Well, nothing works the way it's advertised to work, like nothing.
Yeah.
And you just have to put the 1 or 2 good things you learned here in your backpack, and then you just keep walking along. That's what life is like.
I don't know. It's also about seeing who other people are. Like Amber, when we were working at Tilt on a time machine, seeing who each other are and just not having any kind of agenda, like we're going to run it this way or that way, but just like, oh, this person can offer this, but then this person needs this. And I don't know that there's anything better than that, even with a large organization. I don't know if there's anything better than seeing people.
Yeah, I don't think so either. You see someone and then like for Tilt, I feel like we all, like you said, we all have our roles that we feel, and those roles are temporary. But when you see a person, like you're able to place them in the right role, which like serves a much larger purpose. And I think a person in the right role is delivering. Like, top level productivity or whatever it is that you need to that organization. And then like in the situation with me, that starts this whole like kind of like cascade of things. And it's like, you've come in, you've served this role, you're doing well, someone recognizes that and recognizes you. The organization is doing better as a whole. Everyone can like kind of grow from this. And like it all starts off with like seeing the person and like fully and being able to say like, this is what I see in you. This is like, but
And then
yeah.
we also need to eliminate these artificial concepts of positions and responsibilities. Because a lot of them are artificial and you get stuck in them and then you become ineffective. So, for example, I've grown to hate the word leader. I despise it. So there's only, I think, 3 things that a person who, there's only 3 reasons why you need a person in a team that doesn't have direct responsibility for part of the process the team is engaged in, the value creation, okay? So there's 3 things. You said it, Amber. 1, making sure you match the person to the right responsibility. If you match the person, if you help make that match occur, 90%, that's it. 90% is done. You don't have to worry about quality control or any of those other things that leaders normally worry about. That's number 1. The second is to anticipate. So if everybody else is in charge of 10% of the process and that's their piece of the work, somebody needs to be looking out and going, whoa, this thing is coming at us. It's going to be completely different. We need a different process. We need a different product. So that's the second thing that a so-called leader can do. And then the third thing, it's kind of related to the second, is to constantly evaluate the whole pie of what's going on and make sure that it's in balance and correct. And, there hasn't been a little corrosion occurring over here. And X is, has some issue that prevents the person X from devoting the same level of effort they used to devote. Let's see how we can help X, whatever. But those are the 3 things. Pick the right person, anticipate what's going to happen next, and tend to the well-being of the entire network. Those, to me, are the only 3 functions that the so-called leader needs to do. Not quality control, not personnel evaluation, none of that crap is necessary. Because if yeah, go ahead.
I like how this like plays back into this image of this like mountain thing that I had. But
Yes.
also what Julia said is like the role is temporary. You fill the role and then you don't.
Yeah.
And so when it comes back, when we go back to the mountain, it's like we do sometimes need that leader for those 3 reasons. So somebody has to come up there, but you have to come back down.
You have to come back down. Yeah, and exactly. And people could perform that role. They can rotate in and out of that role. And some people may not want to rotate.
That's the fourth thing, Carmen. That's the fourth.
What?
The 4th thing that a quote unquote leader must do.
No, I said only 3. I
know,
have not.
I'm saying that's the 4th thing, is to come.
Which is what? Which is
down the mountain.
Oh, be willing to leave the job. Be willing to
Yes.
Step aside.
Yes.
The next person to fulfill the role.
Person in the role. Yeah.
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 Anyway, someday, in some future life, perhaps.
I think that happens. I think there are organizations where that happens. We tried to make Tilt like that. I think small organizations, maybe it's easier, maybe it's not. What do you think of the unnamed large airline that you work for? Do you feel like they have the capacity to maybe make that change, or are you going to be in a position where maybe you can help make that change?
I don't know if I'll be in that position. I feel like if I stuck around long enough, then yes, that's just kind of like the type of person that I am. I would reach for that. I'd want to go up the mountain at some point. And so, but as it is right now, so I don't think it would be easy at a company like mine. it's kind of like the technology that they use. So like these airlines put technologies in place when they first came out, and they still exist to this day. There are all these like legacy things that they can't let go of because there's so many things built on top of them. And if they remove something at the bottom, everything that's on it is just going to come crumbling down. And I feel like when it comes to like the people in the organization, corporate structures of it, like it's very much the same. Like it would be very hard to like remove something from like, I guess the pyramid is upside down. It would be very hard to remove something and not have it just like completely fall apart. But do I think it's impossible? No. Like if that was like what was like if the benefit could be seen, then like absolutely, I feel like it could be done overnight, but it'd be hard to like express the benefit of it. Like, how could this truly help? What could be, why reinvent the wheel, which is actually something I hear at work, like,
Oh, yes.
reinvent the wheel,
Yes.
so.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. What a
Mhm.
dumb, dumb, dumb statement.
Yeah, I don't like it either because it's,
Yeah.
you
Let's
don't want to
wait
be
until it
involved.
gets, let's wait until it gets really bad and then we'll handle it.
So,
Well, Amber, I don't know if you have a few more minutes. Carmen, do you have a few more minutes?
Sure, I do. I will just say that we should probably never schedule another one of these calls right at the time we have now, 4 o'clock East Coast, 3 o'clock Central, because that's when the stock market closes. And my experience has always been that the American internet it gets a little unstable between 4 and 5 o'clock East Coast time because everybody's rushing in to get their orders and the whole system is working full throttle. And I always see more lag, which I think all three of us have suffered during this conversation during that time.
Yeah, that's
That's
interesting.
my theory. Yeah.
There's another mountain.
Yes.
I feel like those traders, those stockbrokers, those day traders, they need a lot of help. Like unconditionally loving themselves and allowing themselves to function in a way that doesn't.
Yeah. Julia and I were talking yesterday
Yeah.
about greed. When I meet someone who's very greedy, I was telling Julia, it's impossible for me to empathize with them. I really cannot put myself in their place.
I completely agree with you. I feel like, so I grew up like very poor. I'll just like be frank about that. Like my family was very, very poor. And we could like watch, like my mother was a total hustler. Like she had multiple jobs. She was a single parent. That was me and my sister. I had a brother who passed and then another brother after him. So it's been four of us that, she raised on her own. And like I would say I've in my childhood, I moved like 20 something times. It's just like having to watch her and like being such a perceptive kid and realizing like, oh, this is a money problem. This is a
Mhm.
this is a this is an economic issue and it's affecting everyone around me. I have this very different relationship to money. And I think that's just kind of like just like an what do you call that? Just a unforeseeable kind of like blessing of like my
Mhm.
upbringing because I feel like it's oftentimes the opposite. And so
Mm.
like for me, it's hard for me to see like money as anything other than a tool because I've watched people go from not having money to having money to not having money again and to see that their well-being didn't really like change with their
Mhm.
like increased or decreased bank account. And so when I meet a person like you, when I meet a person who is just like so money hungry, it's baffling to me because like money is just a tool. It's a neutral thing. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a tool that gives you access to other things. And like, you never see somebody pick up a hammer and like wake up every day and it's like, I'm gonna go out and get these hammers. And it's like, it's just as much of a tool as money is. The hammer will build you a house or whatever it is that you needed to do, but this money will get you access to the things that you actually love. It's not money that
Right.
you love. It's the access to things that you love. So
Right. Right.
like, and I feel like there are ways to access things that you love without that and getting in touch with what it is that you truly love, removing the money aspect of it, like creates this whole different, like just way of life. And so, yeah, I
And
think,
and the other sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh, no,
stop
no, no,
you.
go
No,
ahead.
the other thing, which I've noticed because I've got colleagues, peers, friends, and I turned 70 this year. I'm kind of proud of it. And people in my same age group are really kind of suffering maybe from health issues or mobility issues. And it's all about the choices that they made when they, the priorities that they set in their lives were just not, knock on wood, not the right priorities, right? And and so for a lot of these people who are on the hamster wheel, they don't fully realize all of the costs that they're incurring because of the way they're approaching life.
Mm.
It's a lesson you kind of learn, you're looking back and you go, whoa, okay.
All right, I want to take this up a notch here because
Oh,
because if you have the experience, whenever you have the experience that you can't empathize with someone,
mm,
it's like there's something missing. Now, of course, many people who are functioning on greed cannot empathize with you either, right? And but every human is doing the best they can. Like if they're addicted to greed, or as a kid they were poor and they figured out the solution is to become a stockbroker, or they were raised with money and that's the only way they know how to function, and inside they would feel like a failure and want to commit suicide if they didn't have money, or whatever their story is around whatever they're doing. Or on the other end of the spectrum, economic spectrum, Amber, your mom, doing the best she could, moving 20 times, raising 4 kids, dealing with the death of a child. Like everyone's doing the best that they can, because if it's not the best that they could, they would be doing better. Like no one wants to do, like the brain is not designed to do poorly. It's designed to do the best that it can. And so even though I don't like get the greed addiction thing, because I don't have the greed addiction thing, or I don't get that way of living, I think we got to be careful and be like, how can we unconditionally love, especially the people that we can't relate to?
And so I'll chime in and say, like for me, I think empathy is like a choice. It's an action you can take, and it's not something that just, organically appears. It's like it's something that you have to do. And you have to like process it and think about it. And so like in a way, it's like when I say I'm baffled by the person who is just completely greed like driven. I am, I guess, but I get why you might be that way. I understand how things in life play that way. I understand capitalism. Like, I understand the society that we live in, but like, I still at times make the choice to say, like, okay, it's like I get it, but I'm still
yeah,
gonna side eye
yeah,
you. So,
yeah, exactly. Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. What you're saying is you understand, but you're going to be a little judgmental, and
a little bit.
a little bit. Yeah, no, I'm a lot, but I'm learning that what feels really good is to recognize that there's no exceptions to the rule, that everyone's doing the best they can.
Mm.
You could say like that behavior is unacceptable. I do not like that behavior. I don't want to be around that behavior. I don't want my friends to have that behavior, whatever the behavior is. It could be abuse, neglect, greed, whatever it is. So that's perfectly healthy and great, and has to do with unconditionally loving yourself. But recognizing that there's just no exceptions to everyone doing the best they can, it's very freeing, because you stop being this person who thinks that your job is to sort of mete out punishment and reward. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's a little bit of that in there when it comes to this. I mean, to bring it home to this relationship, this mountain valley wildebeest bewildered superior relationship, there's a little bit of that in there too, of like getting at that there's no exceptions, and you show up how you show up, and then you sort of try to love what's there. I don't know, this is more idealistic than anybody.
Is there a line for you? I love the idea of giving people grace, and I love this idea that our brains are designed to do the best that they can. I oftentimes tell people we're designed to feel good, and that it's just society that makes us feel bad, but we can feel good because that's how we're supposed to work. But like, but when it comes to like empathy and the idea that we're all doing the best that we can, like where's the line? And I feel like answering that could also kind of answer questions for people for who might see someone like Carmen right away and be like, oh, you worked for the CIA. Like that's bad. Like, so where do yeah, where are
Yeah,
those
so
lines?
there is a line. So empathy, I kind of ignore because empathy is like square one for human functioning. Like if you can't understand what it's like to be in someone else's shoes, you're in big trouble already. You haven't passed like age 9 of the human development. So I mean, it's sort of like, yeah, empathy. But if we're starting there, we're in trouble, and we are starting there, and we are in trouble. But beyond that, this state of unconditional love is about literally no longer being the sort of judge of who gets love. Like just everyone gets to have love. And then the line becomes, what do I want to fill my life with? Who do I want my friends to be? Who do I want to have in my physical presence? And then that becomes easy because when you need to separate from someone who is like a deal breaker, like they're no longer someone that you can spend your time with because it doesn't feel like you can love yourself when you're with them, then
Mm.
you can literally honestly say, like, I feel unconditional love for you exactly as you are, and I never want to see you again, and I'm gonna make it so that we're not ever going to see each other again. I mean, so you can make a very crisp line while unconditionally loving someone.
Wow, you just kind of like did a thing for me because it's
So
like, okay,
What
oh,
did
it's
what,
like,
what,
I guess I've never had that thought. Like, I'm around someone, I start to feel like this isn't right for me. I think oftentimes what I might do or what anyone might do is say, oh, there's something wrong with this person. But I like now this idea that being around you makes it hard for me to love myself in a way, because what's
Mhm.
really happening when I'm around that person that I'm feeling weird about is I'm kind of judging myself for being in the situation. And so is it really them, or is it the way that I'm making myself feel when I'm with them? And I really like that because I feel that makes me feel more in control in a way. So yeah.
So, I mean, I agree that everyone is doing the best they can at that moment, but people change. Uh, you know, someone is behaving one way 1 month and something happens, and the best they can is either goes in this direction or that direction. I'm not going to say which is the better direction, right?
right?
And sometimes I'm with people whose behavior I think is not helpful to them, and that's my judgment call, that's my perception. This person shouldn't be drinking so much. I never say it. I just, I'm kind of conflicted too. I don't know. Should I say something? Should I not say something? And I'm always going with not saying anything, because I think it's very hard when we tell someone else or give them some idea of something else they could do, for that not to come across as judgmental or preachy, or for them not to put up their barriers immediately. So I mostly don't do it because I don't think it works.
But what about a query-based process where if you're in a, see, this isn't about giving advice either. It's about deciding who you want to have in your space, and then if that changes, that changes. But a query-based process I really like. So this is the Quaker query. Holly until used to talk about this. Like the Quakers do this thing where, it's a friend might say, so how does drinking make you feel? Like, because the assumption that you know the answer, like maybe they're not drinking too much for them. So you don't want to make that assumption because that's like what but you can ask them as a friend, like, how does drinking make you feel? Or does it make you feel good to have an extra, gin every night or whatever it is? You know, as long as you can do it from a state of unconditional love, I think that can be okay. If it comes from a state of judgment where it's like, well, how does that make you feel? I mean, people just pick up on all that. That's all that energy is real.
Mhm.
Mhm. So, so now I have one. So I am currently in a situation where I want to tell someone that they are being self-destructive.
Uh-huh.
Like it's affecting other areas of their lives. And this is someone I've known for a very, very long time. But I'm also in the mind of Carmen where it's like if I say something to you, it won't work. And then like, but to say, how does this make you feel? Like that's also a hard one because it's like, oh yeah, how does self-destructing make you feel? How does self-sabotage like work? That make you feel good?
And usually
That's
I
tough
find
one.
that the person who's engaging in this behavior already knows
Oh yeah.
that this is problematic for them. And so when you ask them, how does it make you feel? You're just as likely to get a sarcastic or antagonistic answer back. Now, by asking that question, you may have provided them a useful little prompt that will have some consequence later on. I don't think you're going to have it would be rare, I imagine, to have an immediate positive impact. Oh, it doesn't make me feel good. I guess I should stop. You know, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's why Al-Anon, the Friends and Family of Alcoholics, exists, because the fantasy that you're going to be like, so I think you're drinking too much, and they're going to be like, oh, maybe you're right, I'll stop, is like that just never happens. It's almost never happens. So yeah, there's I don't know the right way to do it, but I do know that loving yourself to the point where you decide who's basically on your team in your environment, and that could change, is really, really good.
How do we also take that into, or is that an attitude that should be taken into those like large mammoth, like
Yes,
corporate
yes.
spaces? Like,
Yeah, excellence at work or in anything, and including in large mammoth organizations, only occurs when people give that effort their discretionary energy. That energy that there's no contract that can get that energy out of me. There's nothing you can say that can get that energy out of me. It only comes from me when I want to give it. And
Yeah.
so, and people want to give their best when they're feeling good about their circumstance, right? So it's all about feeling good.
Yeah. Oh, we should clarify. You
go,
said
sorry.
CBT, you were in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. We should say that out loud. What were you about
Mhm.
to say?
I was gonna, wait, I have to draw it back. This was gonna circle back to the money,
Oh,
the
okay.
thing that we were talking about, and also at the beginning of the conversation when we kind of, were like expressing our idealized versions of the world and like if those things were possible.
Right.
Um, because I guess I just thought about this. I think like the money aspect of the greed part of it, or like the relationship people have to money is a huge piece of like how those things could change. And like I say, from my own experience, and like I say, I have this different kind of relationship to money in the way that I see it as a tool. I think my happiest times was when I first started working at Tilt. And
Mm.
like I wasn't making like this is like in terms of work, like I wasn't making like what I make at this mammoth organization, but
Sure.
I was living, had bills were paid, food was had, experiences were being experienced and like I could live. And I feel like I was able to show up at Tilt in this like in that way, like fully from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
Like Maya Angelou, I brought all my stuff with me and I was ready to like give it all away. And yeah, a lot of that came from just like having that different relationship to money and knowing that I could be happy or have this high well-being, even though my bank account wasn't here. because like I said before, your bank account's here, but your well-being is here. So like, yes, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. That thought kind of popped into my head there. So
But maybe you can bring some of that. I still hope, I mean, you still do bring all of your stuff to tilt on the board, and I still hope that you could take some of that feeling, and if you have the energy, bring it to the unnamed larger organization for which you are currently working as, what is your role there? By the way, this is Amber Williams. Our guest is Amber Williams.
Oh, this is the latest we've ever introduced anybody. Well done.
yes. Amber Williams, I am an artist working in science, technology, and nonprofit philanthropy. So there we go.
Yeah, and we had that wonderful discussion. Well, let's hope that maybe somehow it was recording about the German film industry, which
Oh, yes.
yeah, that was a great conversation.
Amber, you started your photography and design career photographing boxers, right?
Yes. Yeah. So that was for a while, that was all I did. I would shoot amateur and professional boxing events all over the upper part of the Midwest. So it was like places in Michigan, Indiana, Chicago.
So you're sort of from Chicago then?
Yeah, born and raised here.
Oh, okay. So this is going home for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're giving little hints.
What? What? Oh no. So anyway, I do think, oh yeah,
All right,
I do
we
need
have to, so we have to, do we have time to dance?
To do
no. I'm just gonna say no.
Well, we turn off the volume so that we're not violating copyright, but we all play the same song and then dance to it. You're saying no, Carmen?
I'm saying no.
She doesn't have time. We've already gone a little late. Okay, so
Yeah, I mean, I need to be somewhere.
next time you're on Pandas, Amber, we will dance. And
Yeah, we will have you back.
yeah, and
Yeah,
we'll
I
ask you to
would.
pick the song.
I would love to come back. The next book that I'm reading is called Captains of Consciousness. And this is
Okay.
all about I think his name was Bernays, Edward Bernays, or he was related to Sigmund Freud, and he started the advertising world. And so I
Oh,
think this is a great follow-up to the
media
media
control.
control book.
Yeah.
So basically what we're saying is, Amber, you're gonna be like the one woman Pandas book club lady.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll come back every time I read a new book. So
No, it was great. It was great to talk to you at length. It was
yeah,
awesome.
I really enjoyed this. So thank you for having me on Pandas Playing Cellos.
And just playing cello.
Yes. So this has
Love
been
you.
great. Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.